In Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Workweek, he gives the example of two hardworking people. There's Jane, who works 80 hours a week and makes $100,000 a year. And then there's John, who works 10 hours a week but earns only $50,000 a year. He asks, who is richer? And Ferriss says the answer is obvious. It's John. This is the difference between absolute and relative income. Absolute income only looks at your total dollar amount. So Jane makes $100,000 a year, and so she seems richer than John, who makes $50,000. But the relative income adds one more variable, your time. So if Jane works 80 hours a week, her real earnings are only $25 an hour. If John works 10 hours a week, he's going to earn $100 an hour. So in relative terms, John is actually 4 times richer because he has both money and time. Being rich isn't always about having more dollars. A lot of the time, it's about having more freedom per dollar. So this is something I've seen a lot of my executive clients struggle with. So if you're an executive earning $200,000 per year or more, but you need to work 60 or 70 stress-filled hours per week, you're maybe wondering if you're even saving enough for retirement. This video is going to hopefully change how you think about your financial future. Because what most high-earning executives don't realize is you might already have saved enough money to retire comfortably, but you're trapped in a cycle that's costing you the most precious thing that you can't buy back: time with your family. I'm Bjorn, a certified financial planner, and I've worked with people who've made this same costly mistake. They sacrifice their present life for a future that they might not even enjoy, missing their children's most important years while accumulating wealth that they don't even need. So to illustrate, I put together a sample executive couple as a case study. In this case, I have them both being 45 years old with combined household income of about $400,000. They live in a house that's worth about $1 million and they have 2 young children. In our scenario, maybe like many of you, they're kind of killing themselves working these high-pressure jobs, and they're convinced that they have to keep grinding until their retirement age. But when we run the actual numbers, we discover something shocking. They could actually step back from their executive roles right now and take jobs that pay about half as much and still easily retire at age 65 with over $5 million. So in this video, I want to walk you through their complete financial plan and show you the exact math that makes this possible and explain why the path to financial freedom might be the opposite of what you've been told. Now, there are 3 fundamental misconceptions that trap high-earning executives in this endless cycle of working more to save more. A lot of the time, these beliefs are so deeply embedded in executive culture that people never question them, even though they're responsible for keeping thousands of successful professionals working harder and longer than is necessary, missing out on the very life that they're working to afford. So this first misconception is the "I need to keep saving" trap. Many people believe that they have to maximize their income and savings all the way up until retirement. But the truth is that once you've saved a substantial amount, especially if you've done it at a fairly young age, maybe age 45, the math of compound growth becomes almost magical. So let me show you exactly what I mean using some real numbers in this couple's financial plan. So let's take a look at their financial situation. We can start off by noticing at the top of the page here that their net worth is $1.8 million. So a very well done job for someone who's only 45 years old. Now, what that's made up of is, first off, they have about $50,000 in the bank already. They have about $1.5 million of investments, which is composed of a joint investment account with about $200,000. This is money that as it grows and pays dividends and interest, you have to pay taxes on. Their second accounts is that they have about $1.2 million in 401k assets, and this can be split up between the two of them however we like. Then they have about $25,000 saved for each of their children, Sally and Sam. They have a house worth about $1 million and a mortgage, a 30-year mortgage that's going to be about a $750,000 loan. Now, they're each earning about $200,000, or if you like, $400,000 for the household. It doesn't particularly matter in this case how it's broken down between the two of them. Now, with the way they're saving, you can see that they are going to really grow their assets over time here. And you can see from our screen here what's projected to happen with their assets. They're projected to grow all the way up to about $7.8 million by the time they turn 65. Now this comes from a combination of market returns, plus the fact that they're both maximizing their 401ks and saving a little bit to their 529. Now, if we look at how often they can make it through their retirement without changing anything due to the market, we have a 100% probability of success. But you don't need to have a 100% probability of success, especially when we look at where these people end up by age 95, which is they're leaving a portfolio of something like $18 million behind to their children, having lived a nice lifestyle themselves. Now, their goal is more to enjoy life today than it is to leave a massive inheritance of money that they never spent. So now watch what happens with the compound growth given what they're saving. Right now they have about 1.5 million, but by age 55, after you account for inflation, they'll probably have about 4.2 million, and by age 65, they're going to have $7.6 million. Now that sounds great, except for the fact that their children end up inheriting something like $18 million in today's dollars, and their goal isn't to leave their children the largest inheritance possible, it's to have a wonderful life as a family. So let's look at what would happen if they simply stopped saving. Now in this case, if they simply stopped saving extra money to their 401ks, by age 65, they end up with about $6 million in today's dollars. That's still plenty, and it turns out to be more than enough for them to be able to meet their retirement goals. So the question is, what is the point of all these extra assets if what it ends up costing them is 20 years of their lives? The second big misconception I find is that people seem to think that if you reduce your income, it means an inevitable financial disaster. But let's run an alternative scenario for this couple. So if we go back to this and we notice that right now they're each earning about $200,000 and they spend about $8,000 per month plus their mortgage, plus taxes, plus healthcare. In this scenario, you'll see that we've reduced their income all the way down to $110,000 each. So I don't really care how that breaks down. It could be $220,000 or so combined between the two of them. So maybe one of them decides to earn more and one decides to earn less. However, if they go that far down in their income, they end up with about $3.8 million in today's dollars by the time they retire. However, it turns out this is still enough for them to meet their retirement goal and never run out of money. So they can nearly cut their income in half and still hit their financial goals. Now, this only works if you do three specific things. First is they need to maintain a stock-heavy investment allocation throughout their lives. And this means that their portfolio is going to have enough rate of return to outpace inflation substantially. The second thing that helps is for them to delay their Social Security until age 70. This increases their monthly benefit and improves their overall probability of success. The third thing is a little bit more of a softer skill, which is picking the right lower income role. The $110,000 roles are nice, but you want to make sure it's a role that provides some meaning and structure without the 70-hour work weeks. So here's the third misconception, and it might be the most important. It's the idea that retirement itself is the goal. I've seen too many executives who save aggressively, retire early, and then find themselves miserable within 5 years. Work promotes purpose, structure, social connections, and an intellectual challenge. And when someone who's really successful suddenly stops working entirely, a lot of the times they experience what I would call a retirement depression, where they have a lot of money but no sense of meaning. So instead of the traditional FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early, I recommend what I would call the FINC approach, financial independence and new career. By age 50, this couple is going to have enough wealth that money's no longer the primary factor in determining their career decisions. They could choose roles based on personal fulfillment, based off of work-life balance, impact and meaning, and time with their family. They've essentially bought themselves the freedom to work by choice and not necessity. So these three misconceptions, the belief that you have to maximize savings until retirement, the fear that stepping back financially means disaster, and the assumption that traditional retirement is the ultimate goal, all of these create the same problem. They prevent you from recognizing that you've already won the financial game. So here's what I've learned after working with a lot of executives. The goal isn't always to accumulate the most money. The goal is to accumulate enough money so that you can buy back your time and freedom as quickly as possible. So, if you're a high-earning executive with substantial savings, you might have already crossed the finish line without realizing it. The question isn't whether you can afford to retire, it's whether you can afford not to reclaim your life while still having young children at home, while your health is still good, and while you have decades ahead of you to enjoy the wealth you've built. If you want to learn more about how we help executives like you navigate these complex financial and life decisions, click the first link in the description below to book a call with me. Thank you for your time and attention. I know how valuable it is.